So who or what is God in Sikhism? In the opening of the Guru Granth Sahib, the Adi Granth, this holy book, it describes God in these words: there is but one all-pervading spirit, and it is called the truth. It exists in all creation, and it has no fear. It does not hate, and it is timeless, universal, and self-existent. You will come to know it through seeking knowledge and learning. So this God is described in terms that is both similar to the Hindu idea of Brahman, in which God is an all-pervading, or God or the ultimate is an all-pervading spirit that underlies and is the foundation of everything. Although Hindus, along with Sikhs, would say that it's not so much that God is in everything, but everything is in God. It's also given terms that are similar to how Muslims think of Allah. So God is one, unlike the Brahman, which maybe manifests itself into many different forms of the various gods of Hinduism. Within Sikhism, within Islam, before it, God is conceived as monotheistic, one, a spirit, indescribable and genderless, that has no children, that begets not, nor is begotten. These types of terms. This God is, even though we attribute different names to the God, is indescribable and above any perfections we attribute to such a God. This God is often called Sat, which means the truth. Okay, the God is perceived as ultimate truth itself. Sikhs often call God Nam, which means name of God, instead of giving any sort of specific name, which might limit God or reduce God to that one single perfection or attribute. They'll call it Nam, which includes all perfections and attributes. The one name that includes all name, even as the word which Hindus might recite a mantra, is the sound of the universe that doesn't signify anything particular, but signifies everything, both generally and particular. This God is seen as transcendent, so above and beyond all of the natural or physical world, but also immanent, very close by, very nearby. Everything is inside of God. Everything is close and proximate to God, so we can reach out to God with a sincere, devoted heart, and God will be there. God is seen as, in these attributes that is typical of Judaism, and Islam, and Christianity, seen as eternal, seen as merciful and kind, seen as wise and all-knowing. And the 6 scriptures say that one will know God by His grace in mystical experience. So through our devotion to God, this opens us up to the grace of God, so that in which God reveals Himself or itself to us, and we have that mystical experience of closeness, of union, of feeling God's presence in our lives and our heart. Within the 6 scriptures, in the Adi Granth, it often refers to God's presence or encounter with God as being Amrit, which means nectar. So think of the pollen that bees might collect and turn to honey, this sort of nectar, and it's something that is sweet, something that is nourishing, something that is very, very good and joyful to experience. Let's look at some aspects of the Adi Granth and ritual. So every morning, a devoted Sikh will do something called Bani. Bani just means word, and it refers to the words of Scripture, more particular. They'll say 5 different Banis, hymns or prayers, in the morning, and these hymns or prayers, if if they're said completely, will take an hour to 2 hours for the devoted Sikh. Many Sikhs arise before 5 in the morning to be able to complete all of these prayers before they start their workday. There's in addition 2 different sections or banis, these different hymns or prayers that a devoted Sikh will say before they go to bed. Though this doesn't take quite as long as it would in the morning. A central practice for most all Sikhs is the melodic chanting or singing of the scripture. And Sikhs, whether they live in India or whether they live in the diaspora, perhaps in England or the United States, the children who don't really understand the language of the scriptures will nonetheless study and slowly learn some of the vocabulary, but more so memorize and learn how to sing in an eloquent and lovely way the scriptures. But even those that don't learn to ever chant it themselves, or at least any large portion of it, will go to the Sikh temple or house of worship called a Gurdwara, and they'll listen for many minutes, sometimes hours at a time, the chanting and singing of the scriptures by quasi-professional singers of the Guru Granth Sahib itself. In addition, a way that Sikhs approach their scriptures as if it is the Guru itself, and it is the Guru itself for them, is by the practice of Hukam Nama. And in Hukam Nama, they will, even as you might want to go to a spiritual master to receive guidance about some sort of big decision one wants to take in their life. Should I move here? Should I stay? Should I buy this house? Should I wait? Should I marry this person? Is this person actually not good for me? What should I name my child? All these sorts of big questions in one's life. One will open the Guru Granth Sahib at random, so not looking for a particular page, but maybe close their eyes and open and look at whatever page they come to, and they'll read the verse that's in the top left of that page they open to, and that verse, whatever it says, will be seen as the perfect answer to their question that's given to them by the grace of God, by the grace of the Guru itself, and they can understand what they should do based on what that verse says. Although, as you can imagine, it might take quite a bit of interpretation to understand how that verse is perfect guidance for their religion, or how that verse is perfect guidance for the question they had at hand. The most central temple of worship for Sikhs around the world is found in northwest India in a city called Amritsar, and it is colloquially known as the Golden Temple, and you can see a picture of it in the top right there. It's hard to tell from that picture, but it sits on a foundation, but with water, a pool of water completely surrounding it in most directions, and there's a little walkway from the regular part of the city where you can walk in and over to the Golden Temple. Apparently thousands of Sikhs will visit that Golden Temple every single day, sometimes listening for 5-10 minutes, sometimes for hours, to the recitation or singing of the Guru Granth Sahib by quasi-professional chanters. In more local parts around the world, Sikhs will come together in what's called a Gurdwara. These are the houses of worship or temples for Sikhs. The largest of the Gurdwaras in the United States is found just outside San Jose, California, and you can see this sort of pinkish color this very large Gurdwara built by the Sikh community in that area. And in that, someone who goes to the Gurdwara to worship will do various actions of devotion. They'll, for example, walk along this red carpet, often stopping before the holy book. On this altar, the holy book will be set, and there's usually an attendant who has a whisk. Think of kind of a fan in which a king will be fanned. Even as a king might be fanned, the minister, often a Sikh man, will use the whisk to fan and keep cool as a form of honoring the holy book itself. But the person who has walked along the red carpet will stop before the holy book, often whispering a prayer to themselves to the holy book, praising God before the holy book, and sometimes they'll offer some money at the altar, just below where the holy book is. And then there's usually someone sitting on the side of the holy book who will offer the person something called prasad, which is made of wheat, butter, and sugar in equal parts. Because all people are equal before God, as a central Sikh ethic. But this delicious, gooey sort of substance that one is offered is a token of God's grace that you receive and you eat, almost even as Christians might eat the Eucharist as part of their worship in their churches. And it's also a reminder that the praise and worship of God is something that's very sweet and very nourishing in one's life. After doing that, one will often find a seat. Often, though not always, men will sit on one side, women on another side within the Gurdwara. One will find a seat in one section and listen to professional or paraprofessional sort of singers, chanters of the Gurdwara sing it. After one has gotten their fill of hearing of the chanting, one might go to the kitchen in another part of the Gurdwara. The kitchen are often usually called a langar. And in there, as you can see in this picture, one will find a seat, often along different rows, and Sikhs who have volunteered will serve you food, give you more bread or naan. It's usually always a vegetarian food that's served, and different Sikhs will volunteer both to cook the food and to serve it as a form of active worship and devotion to God.